There is a certain kind of person, I'm sure you know them, always angry, always complaining, always ready to push your buttons, and somehow they are in your life. Maybe in your home, maybe in your workplace. You may even be married to one, soft laughter, so what do you do? The first thing is this, don't be in a hurry to fix them, because they are not the real problem. The only problem is you have not figured out how to stay untouched. See, if someone throws mud at you, you have two choices, either you roll in it or you step aside. The mud was never used to begin with. Difficult people are not bad people, they are simply people who have not learned how to be at ease. They are boiling inside, so they spill over. But the question is not, why are they like that? The real question is, why do I suffer because of it? Let me tell you, no one has the power to disturb you. Unless you give them permission, the world will always have difficult people. But whether you suffer or not, that's your business. If you want to walk through a thorny path barefoot and then complain that it hurts, it's your choice. But what if you had shoes? The secret is not in changing others. The secret is in putting on inner shoes, a certain clarity, a certain balance. Then even if the world dances in chaos, you sit in stillness. So next time someone shouts insults or behaves like a storm, don't become a storm too, don't become a storm too. Pause, breathe, smile, not because you agree, but because you are free. When you no longer react, when you simply observe, you will see something magical happens. The difficult person is no longer powerful and maybe they start to soften too. Because your peace is the most infectious thing in the universe. So become that, not a reactor, not a resistor, just an oasis in the desert of that turmoil. That, my friends, is the true secret. When you see someone behaving in a way that is unpleasant or irritating or just not how you think they should behave, the first tendency, unfortunately, is to judge, to label, to put a stamp. This one is arrogant, that one is toxic, this one is rude, that one is manipulative, but you see, judgment is always about the surface. It never seeks to understand what lies beneath, because to judge is quick, easy and ego-satisfying, while to understand takes depth, patience and a willingness to feel more than just your own perspective. If someone is constantly shouting, constantly negative, constantly harsh with their words, or even cruel with their presence, perhaps it is not because they are inherently bad or evil or out to destroy your peace, but maybe it is because they themselves have never known peace, never been loved the way they wanted. Maybe their world is loud and broken inside, and they are simply speaking the only language their pain has taught them. So, when you see the thorns, the rough edges, the anger, the complaints, instead of asking why they are like this, ask what has happened to them. Not with pity, but with awareness. Because a human being does not flower into something bitter without a certain soil of suffering, without a certain atmosphere of neglect, fear or emotional starvation that has shaped their expressions into something you call difficult now. I'm not saying you must tolerate everything or become a doormat for someone else's chaos. I am only saying, before you close your heart, before you turn away with judgment, try opening a window of understanding, try standing in their shoes, even if for a moment. Try seeing them not as the enemy of your peace, but as a soul who forgot how to find their own judgment comes from a need to feel superior, to stay safe behind a wall of righteousness. Understanding comes from a willingness to be vulnerable, to admit that just like them, you too are human. You too have had moments of weakness, of anger, of hurtful behavior. And when you remember this, something shifts inside. A softness comes, not out of pity, but out of profound recognition. And this is not about them anymore, this is about you. About whether you want to carry the weight of resistance in your chest or the lightness of awareness. Whether you want your inner world to shrink with every judgment or expand with every act of understanding. Because every time you understand rather than judge, you set yourself free, not them. You, the difficult person in your life, may never change, they may still be sharp like thorns. But if you change your eyes, if you shift your perception, if you stop reacting and start perceiving, then what was once a source of irritation becomes a mirror, a path, a way to grow your own stillness, a way to deepen your own presence, a way to rise above instinct and into conscious living. So next time someone acts out, speaks sharply, disappoints you, instead of closing off, try asking, not out loud, but inside, or is this person truly hungry for? And if you can do that even once, without letting your mind jump to conclusions, then you have already begun to taste what it means to live with understanding instead of judgment. And in that one small shift, you have taken a giant step toward inner mastery. When things go wrong in your life, when people hurt you, when situations don't unfold the way you imagined or prayed or hoped, There is a tendency, often unconscious but deeply ingrained, to slip into this silent declaration. Why? As if the universe has singled you out, as if life is conspiring against you. And in that moment, without realizing it, you begin to shrink, you begin to wear the identity of a victim, is actually the heaviest chain around your neck, because the moment you believe you're a victim, you have handed over your power, your peace, your inner balance to someone else, to something else. And now your joy is at the mercy of how gently, how cruelly others behave, how fair or unfair the world decides to be, how stable or unstable your circumstances appear, and so you live like a leaf in the wind, tossed around by every difficult person, every unexpected turn, every emotion that arises from outside. But the truth is, you are not a leaf, you are not fragile. You are not fragile. You are not made of paper and pain, you are made of awareness, of presence, of life in its most potent form. And this life does not come with a contract that says it. It must always be kind. It only offers you a single gift, freedom. The freedom to choose how you respond, the freedom to remain untouched even when everything around you is on fire. And I'm not saying the hurt is not real. I am not saying the betrayal didn't happen. I am not saying you were not wronged. Life does not deny the wound, but it invites you to go deeper than the wound or to discover the place within you that has never been wounded, that cannot be broken. And from that place to live not as a victim of circumstances, but as a master of your own inner atmosphere. When you say, they made me angry, they ruined my peace, they triggered me. You are essentially saying, I have no control over myself. And that is the greatest, latest lie you can believe, because the only real authority you ever had was over how you feel, how you think, how you move through this existence, and if you give that… If you surrender it to every rude and every cruel phase, then you have become enslaved, not by people, but by your own unconsciousness. You are not what happened to you, you are what you choose to become after it happened. And this is not about being hard or cold or indifferent, no. This is about being so rooted, so aware, so fully alive inside that nothing on the outside can dictate who you are. Because your identity is no longer a reaction, it is a conscious creation. Moment to moment, breath to breath, and once you stop saying, they did this to me, and start asking, what can I grow from this? You will find a strength in you that was always there, buried under layers of blame and resentment and emotional debt. And in that strength, there is no need to fight anyone, no need to prove anything, no need to beg for peace because peace is already there. It just needed you to stop outsourcing it. So stop waiting for the world to be kind before you become free, stop waiting for others to change before you feel whole. Stop holding your breath for someone else's apology and just remember, you are not a victim, you never were. Where? You just forgot that your inner world belongs to you and you alone. And the moment you reclaim that, no one and nothing can shake you again. There is a difference, a vast difference, between reacting and responding. And unless you begin to see that difference not intellectually, not just as a nice idea but experientially, as a lived moment in your daily interactions, you will remain like a drum that beats every time something strikes. A puppet moved by the strings of other people's moods, words and energies. And you will call it normal. But there is nothing normal about living like a reflex machine. Reaction is mechanical. It comes from memory, from emotion, from unprocessed pain. It rises without permission and speaks before you know what it is saying. It is fast, impulsive, and usually full of regret. While response is born out of awareness, it comes after a pause, after a breath, after a silent recognition that you are not your triggers, not your patterns, not your conditioning, and only when you step back from the heat can you speak from clarity. People will test you. Not always intentionally, but simply because they are unaware of themselves, because they are spilling over from their own inner noise, and if you live reactively, you are just adding to that noise, one unconscious person meeting another, each blaming the other for the chaos, while no one sees that the real power lies in the gap between stimulus and action, in that tiny space where stillness can enter when someone insults you, provokes you, ignores you, shames you, and you react immediately. They are in control of your state. They press a button and you perform, like a puppet with no spine. But if you can pause, if you can simply remain still for a few seconds at internal commentary, you will find something miraculous. The urge to react loses its grip, and in that loss you gain something immeasurable. Responding consciously does not mean being passive, it does not mean becoming silent or withdrawn out of fear or suppression. It means engaging with life from a place of awareness, of presence, of intelligent observation. where you do not lose yourself in the drama, but rather watch it unfold, not as a victim or a judge, but like a calm center around which the storm dances without shaking the core. The world is full of reaction. Social media, relationships, news, politics, everyone is reacting to everyone else, endlessly echoing the same wounds, the same noise, and if you want to live like that, yes, you can. But you will burn out because reaction takes energy. It steals clarity, it blinds vision, while response nourishes, it restores balance. It allows you to see clearly and act without inner conflict. And this is not about suppressing emotion. No, emotions are natural, but you don't have to build your personality around every passing emotion. And you don't have to speak just because something inside is yelling. You can observe the yell, watch it like a wave, and only respond when it has passed. When what you say is not a discharge of your storm, but a conscious drop of wisdom or silence. So begin with the smallest thing. The next time someone irritates you, pause for 3 breaths, say nothing for 5 seconds, just watch what rises, and you will begin to see the space between reaction and response. And in that space, you will taste freedom. Not because the world changed, but because you did not let it drag you into its unconsciousness, and that is the real beginning of mastery. When you wake up in the morning and the first thing you feel is pressure to be somewhere, to do something, to fix, to prove, to explain, to respond, then know this: even a small irritation from outside feel like an invasion. The truth is they are only touching what is already tense within you. You see, the world outside will always be noisy. People will speak, situations will shift, things will fall out of place. But the one thing that determines whether you suffer or remain centered is not the noise outside, but the silence inside. And this silence does not come from running away, from escaping or from controlling others. It comes only when you start clearing the mess you have collected inside, all the unspoken emotions, the old wounds, the recycled thoughts, the clutter of what ifs and why nots. To create inner space is not some spiritual luxury, it is survival, it is clarity, it is sanity. Because when you live without space inside, everything outside feels too close, too loud, too much, and that's when people seem difficult, days seem overwhelming, and your own mind becomes your biggest enemy, not because life is harsh, but because your inner sky has no room left to breathe, just like a room filled with too much furniture becomes hard to walk in. Your being becomes heavy when filled with too many unresolved things, too many opinions, too many reactions, too many identities you are trying to hold up. And unless you learn the art of emptying, of releasing, of simply sitting and letting things fall away without holding on, you will never know what it means to live lightly. This is why silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of space. This is why meditation is not about closing your eyes, but about opening your inner dimensions. This is why peace is not something to be found, but something that naturally rises when the weight is gone, when the noise settles. When the dust of your constant doing finally begins to settle and something deeper, quieter, more spacious begins to emerge in this space. It is not a void, it is alive, it is intelligent, it speaks without words, it guides without noise. And once you begin to live with even a little bit of space within you will find that difficult people don't disturb you as much, stressful situations don't drain you as fast, because you are not crowded inside. You have room to observe, to breathe, to choose how to move, not reactively, but with grace. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, instead of trying to fix everything outside, just stop for a moment and ask, how much space do I have inside right now? And if the answer is none, don't panic, just breathe, just sit, just close your eyes for a few moments and watch, not to analyze, not to control, just to witness. Because even watching your inner clutter creates space. Even allowing the mind to be as it is without judgment is a form of clearing, and slowly, with patience and practice, you will find that space is not something you create once and keep forever. It is something you choose again and again, in every conversation, in every reaction, in every breath. And the more space you hold within, the less the outside world can disturb the vastness of who you truly are. When someone irritates you, provokes you, belittles you, or constantly challenges your peace, the immediate tendency is to resist, to reject, to distance yourself mentally or physically. And while there is nothing wrong with protecting your boundaries, there is something deeply powerful in recognizing that the very person you call difficult may actually be the greatest teacher you never asked for, but life sent anyway. Not because they are wise, not because they are kind,